Hey everyone, and welcome back for another Railfan adventure. For this trip, we'll be riding along a familiar route, the Norfolk Southern main line through Kentucky, but we will have an unfamiliar final stop. We begin our journey at the Guest Street Yard in Cincinnati and then make our way south. We'll stop in Sandyville, check out Highbridge, and then Burnside. I know, we've been to all these spots before. But after Burnside, we'll keep heading south into Tennessee and check out another yard. I'm talking about Sevier Yard outside Knoxville. Well, back to Cincinnati, or Ludlow actually. I really enjoy this area. It has two great vantage points. In the morning, I like this wide open spot along the river. The sun is behind me, and the black and white Norfolk Southern paint scheme looks great as the light hits it. During the afternoon, or if you just want some shade, you can head to the viewing platform Ludlow built a few years ago. It really is a great place to watch trains as they make their way in and out of Cincinnati. We see our first train make its way into view. This is 189. It starts at Oakwood Yard in Detroit and then heads south to East Point, Georgia. Along the way, it will stop in Chattanooga and work to Butts Yard. We'll follow it as far as Burnside, where it will swap crews.
Officially, we stand still on location north there. No, sounds special. 114. 171. Engine CSX 4008, engineer's initial JF, shut doors to your limits there, number one track, just up towards the north end of your limits, nearly at Lake Rail South. Maximum price. Alright, Y17114 into 4008, they've got permission. So if we keep send those up on number one track, 7.0, max speed over. Copy, we'll make that good at higher wing there, and I believe the guys get their smartboard up 10.5.
As it makes its way across the Ohio River, it comes to a stop for a few minutes. It then starts up again and creeps across the Southern Railway Bridge as it begins to climb Erlanger Hill. We can see as it approaches the signal, it has a diverging clear. It's taking the switch onto the number 2 track. And we can just barely see a northbound train waiting in the distance. The Norfolk Southern Guest Street Yard is much smaller than CSX's surrounding Queensgate Yard, which really limits what NS is able to do. But it does feature an intermodal facility between the yard and Union Terminal. Norfolk Southern has two other yards in the area. Sharon Yard, which is north of town, and Berry Yard in Bond Hill, which is for local switching. This line opened completely in 1880. It was financed by the city of Cincinnati. The present-day Cincinnati Southern Railway runs 337 miles from Cincinnati to Chattanooga. It is still owned by the city of Cincinnati and is leased to the Cincinnati, New Orleans, and Texas Pacific under a long-term lease. It's the only such long-distance railway owned by a municipality. The CNO&TP's lease of the Cincinnati Southern Railway runs through 2026. There is an option for a 25-year renewal. The agreement is governed by the 5-member trustees of the Cincinnati Southern Railway, who are appointed by the mayor of the city of Cincinnati. The CNO&TP used to be divided into 3 districts, but has since been cut into 2. The first district ran from Cincinnati to Danville, the second from Danville to Oakdale, Tennessee, and the third from Oakdale to Chattanooga. The second district was known as the Rat Hole because of steep grades, 27 tunnels, and numerous curves which were once this line's signature. The line has been straightened and nearly all the tunnels have been daylighted or are no longer in use. I'm not sure if it still holds true, but this was the company's second most profitable line. It certainly sees plenty of action at all hours of the day. As it finishes crossing the bridge, let's take a look at Ludlow and what this area used to look like. These pictures are from the Northern Kentucky Views historical website. It's a great resource for all things history in Northern Kentucky. We'll start with a picture of the original railroad bridge. Unlike the current one, the original was only a single track. The section closest to us is actually a swing bridge to allow what looks to be the Island Queen and other steamboats through. You can see how the pier that section sits on is cylindrical, unlike the other ones. The bridge would actually spin 90 degrees to allow the ship's passage. As we look today, you can see the pier is still there, but it no longer supports the bridge. Now we'll take a look at the northbound approach. That's the Ludlow Depot on the right. When finished, this had to be an extremely impressive bridge for the area. Here's a closer look at the depot. This photo was taken in 1912. Next to the Ludlow sign, you can see the Southern Railway Express logo. That was the FedEx or UPS of its time. Let's take a broader look at what this area used to look like. This is the railroad shops. There was hardly any room left, and look at all those freight and passenger cars. Sadly, nearly everything's been torn down. Here's a close-up picture of the roundhouse. It looks like there are 19 engine stalls. You can also get an idea of just how important passenger rail was at the time. It's a shame we don't have these options anymore. Well, back to our train. I thought about stopping in Erlanger, but I didn't know if I had time to get set up. So I decided to head south on I-75 and try catching it again in Sandyville. As I've said before, I like railfanning on NS because this line has ATCS coverage. While driving, I saw this train had a straight shot south. I don't know if it's a hot shot or not, but it certainly seems that way. It wouldn't get a stop signal until Burnside, and I'm sure that was only for a crew change that was ready and waiting. I could barely get my camera set up and my drone flying toward the Eagle Creek trestle as the train started to cross it.
Can you bring it back? I might keep having to start, but I will go down to your chief store and show you it. They allow drones in there.
As one of the most lucrative railways in the South, the Cincinnati Southern made Sandyville one of its shipping points, and a seriously lucrative one at that. Sandyville was the largest market in the country for shipping yearling mules and colts. The town's downtown is even on the National Historic Registry because of its impressive collection of late Victorian era and early 20th century architecture. As the train comes to an end, I was debating whether I should try to catch it at Highbridge or just go straight to Burnside. Highbridge is one of my favorite drone spots, but that's about it. As the vegetation grows, you can't really get a good shot from the ground. Plus, because it's a state park, Kentucky rules say I must physically leave the park to launch my drone, which is a pain. Also, take a look at this. Highbridge is pretty far out of the way. There's no direct way to get back on US 27 without taking plenty of back roads. In the end, I decided it was worth it just because I love the view so much. I sped there and hoped that I would get there ahead of the train. I got set up in time and waited with the drone. We can see the train come around the bend as it approaches the second of two crossovers in the nearly 10-mile double-track section. The speed limit over the bridge is 40 miles an hour. The 1,100-foot-long bridge sits 275 feet above the Kentucky River. The original bridge was to be a suspension bridge designed by John Roebling. He's the same man who designed the suspension bridge from Covington into Cincinnati, and later the Brooklyn Bridge. That plan was scrapped though for a cantilever bridge, but it did use the original concrete piers. The bridge was eventually torn down and replaced with what we see today in 1911. Even though I've been here numerous times, I'm still always in awe of the beauty of this area. If you have the chance, I would certainly recommend a trip to the area just to check it out and spend some time here. Well, now it's time to pack everything up and head to Burnside. This is going to be close. As I cross the Cumberland River Bridge, I see the train has already beaten me here.
Norfolk Southern, milepost 162.9, track 1, no defects. Southern, milepost 162.9, track 1, no defects. Head to depot with 189 crew. 189 over. Outbound's on duty till 3:35. If y'all are off crossing, if you want to tie it down, that's fine. Sit on it, whatever y'all want to do.
Settle over. Hey, let me check. Somebody just pulled in here. Let me see if that's who they are. 189 outbound. Yeah, they're here at the depot now.
Appreciate it, Mark.
All righty.
I never saw what it looked like before, but from what I've read, Norfolk Southern really built up this area, including the crew building and adding track as well. The view of the bridge, though, has gotten worse since I was here a year ago. The vegetation continues to grow, and it will soon completely block it out from the ground. As we fly over the river, though, let's take a closer look at the cut in the rock to make room for this line. Falling rocks must be an issue, and that's why Norfolk Southern has installed these metal nets. I really do think this is just such an impressive scene. A short time later, a northbound that had been sitting just south of here was beginning its trip toward Danville. I was debating on whether to leave after this, but I had seen that there was a train that looked like it was leaving Danville a little while ago and should be getting close. I kept my drone in the air and hoped the train would arrive before my battery gave out. Luckily for me, it made it, and we can see the train come into view. If you ever get the chance to come down to the Lake Cumberland area, you're in for quite a treat. It really is such a beautiful country. I had enough battery to get the train coming across the bridge, but that was about it, and I had to land my drone. This train would also come to a stop here at Burnside for a crew change. I never caught the symbol of it. Well, that does it for our time on the CNO&TP, but we got one more stop to make. We're heading just outside Knoxville to check out the Norfolk Southern John Sevier Yard. It's been in operation for nearly a century. It became the first automated hump yard in 1951 with a $4.7 million upgrade. The nearly 3-mile long, half-mile wide yard had 80 miles of track and 420 switches. During its height, 35 trains a day were handled at the yard. It also has a shop where minor maintenance on engines was performed, and it had a full-service car repair shop. But sadly, Norfolk Southern decommissioned it 5 years ago, and all terminal operations supposedly ceased. I looked at the Norfolk Southern train symbol lists, and I do see several trains originating here despite the supposed shutdown. Now, there was a little activity in the yard while I was filming, but it looked to be just some simple block swapping. So I don't know if Norfolk Southern has brought back a couple trains or what. NS says it serves as a crew change location only and is used only for equipment storage and train meets. We can see the turntable is still there along with the engine house. I do enjoy seeing this equipment, but it's a shame it's no longer in use. The hump is here, but everything has been ripped out around it. This is the western entrance to the yard. Knoxville is off in the distance, but you can't see it. Now we're looking east. You can see the yard's pretty impressive. There's just not much activity going on here. We'll fly along a bit to give us an idea of just how big this yard is. Now we're getting a look at the bowl and the hump and the control tower. Now we're taking a closer look at the turntable and the engine house. As we take another look around, we can see what looks to be a train doubling out, getting ready to leave. Now we'll take a closer look at the hump, or, well, what's left of it. It looks like Norfolk Southern has actually cut out the rail lines so that even if a train wanted to go over this, there was no way that it could do so. I never understood why railroads would do this. It seems like it would just be easier to let them be in place and just check on them every once in a while just in case you need them. As I was leaving, I came across this building. It was the former headquarters for the Central Division. I believe it's now only used for maintenance of way crews. I plan to head back to Knoxville and do some more exploring. It seems like a pretty fun city with a lot of rail history and more to explore. I did see a sign for a rail museum and what looks like a passenger train nearby. Here we can see an old railroad bridge over the Tennessee River. It's the Norfolk Southern Railroad Bridge. It was built in 1903 and is nearly 1,300 feet long. I'm still working on a few other videos, including a return trip to Bellevue, Ohio, in Norfolk Southern's largest yard. Good news up there, but I'll wait to share that with you with the video. We'll also head down the CSX CC sub to Corbin and see if there's any activity at its yard there. I'm always looking for ideas for Railfan trips, so please feel free to let me know where you think I should check out. And to those of you who have commented, thank you. I really do appreciate it. Well, that does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Till we meet again, have a great day.